those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I.
Good evening. Welcome. Welcome. If everyone can take their seats, please. Good evening and welcome to the Democratic Primary County Judge Debate. I'm Angie Mock, publisher and CEO of the San Antonio Report, and along with Jeff Webster, the CEO of the Greater San Antonio Chamber, and our amazing teams, we are your hosts for this evening's sold out event. Thank you for our, yes, sold out event. Thank you to our candidates and everyone joining us, including the 2026 chairman of the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, Kevin Denon. We're glad you're here. We're also very grateful to our sponsors, especially USAA, who consistently steps up to ensure that civic engagement events like this are free and available to our entire community. Thank you, USAA. Thanks also to sponsors American Council of Engineering Companies San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association, Futuro San Antonio, Toyota Texas, the Arcade Group, and our in-kind sponsor, Silver Eco Beverages. Thank you all. So civic engagement is really at the heart of the mission of the Chamber and the San Antonio Report. And our mutual goal is that you use what you learn tonight to make informed decisions when you cast your ballot at the polls. And you can do that in exactly 1 week from today because early voting opens then. We just have a few ground rules for the audience. So the goal tonight is to have a really informative discussion. So please, if you will refrain from clapping or any loud noises. But as I look at you all, you're just an amazing looking crowd. So I don't think we're going to have any trouble with that. But we want our candidates to be able to answer as many questions as possible. Tonight's debate is being videotaped, and so it will be up on the Chamber and the Report's website tomorrow. So please share it with any friends or coworkers or family members who couldn't be here in person, because I think what you're going to hear tonight is really important. We are also very grateful to partner for this event with TechBlock, and TechBlock is a nonprofit that's dedicated to fostering economic development and advocacy. And they help connect and grow the tech ecosystem in San Antonio and Central Texas. So please help me and welcome TechBlock's CEO, Beto Altamirano.
Thank you. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, come on. How's everybody doing tonight? There you go. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Beto Altamirano. I'm the CEO of TechBlock. I'm joined by our chair, Will Conway. He's somewhere around, and our board members of TechBlock. I'll start with a quick confession. Yes, I ran for mayor last year. And it's good to be back on the other side of the stage, where they're not going to be telling me or asking me about what people Google about me, okay? We're grateful to partner with San Antonio Report under the leadership of Angie Mock, and also the Greater San Antonio Chamber, led by Jeff Webster, to create this space for thoughtful, respectful, and productive dialogue that San Antonio and Bexar County deserve. At TechBlock, we believe deeply in San Antonio's potential. This is a city of builders. It's a city of doers, of innovators, of small businesses, veterans, entrepreneurs, and families that create the future of San Antonio and Bexar County every day. Our mission is simple: to make sure that opportunity is growing here in San Antonio and Bexar County, that prosperity is shared, and that everyone benefits from innovation being built in this county. But progress doesn't happen by accident. It takes leadership, it takes trust, and it takes people willing to make tough decisions, long-term decisions that is going to impact our region for the decades to come. That's why tonight it matters. The office of Bexar County Judge helps shape how we grow, compete, and care for one another, from economic development to public health, workforce development. These are decisions that ripple across every neighborhood in our city, in our region, which is Bexar County. Our goal is not sound bites. It's real conversation. It's big ideas. Tonight, we're going to hear from two leaders who have dedicated their lives to public service. Judge Peter Sakai and former Mayor Ron Nirenberg. Because the future of this region is too important for anything less. We're going to test their ideas, hear from them, and tell the story of Bexar County, one that is being shaped tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing your time, and thank you for helping shape the future of Bexar County. With that, I'm honored to introduce the editor-in-chief of San Antonio Report, Lee Munsell. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hello. Wow. It is so exciting to see so many of you here for civic engagement in the form of the Great Debate. We're really glad to have you here to have a primary debate in the Democratic primary for Bexar County Judge. We're going to try something a little bit different tonight, and this requires some audience participation. So please take a moment to scan the QR code that's going to come up on the screen, or text VOTE to the number on the screen to sign up for text messages from the San Antonio Report. If you check the box that says you're here tonight, you'll be on the list and you can take a survey. Text the word survey to take the survey, and we'll have 4 different topics that you all can decide which one you would like to hear a question on, and we'll give you an update later in the debate. Let's welcome our candidates to the stage, former Mayor Ron Nirenberg and Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai. Wonderful. Though it won't be over until November, the March 3rd primary is a key moment in the Bexar County Judge race. Republicans haven't won a county-wide office for a long time, and Democratic primary voters have 2 very well-known names to choose from in local politics. Now, I'm sure all of you in tonight's audience are local government experts, but I always appreciate a quick primer on what exactly we're talking about here. The Bexar County Judge is not an actual judge. And the 5-member County Commissioners Court is not an actual court in the judicial sense. What it is a governmental body created by the state to do things like oversee elections, manage the justice system, and handle infrastructure and law enforcement outside the urban centers. The goal of this debate tonight is to come away with a clearer understanding of these 2 candidates and how they would approach the role. Judge Sakai and former Mayor Nirenberg, we're going to start by asking you to make an opening statement, then we'll move into questions as well as follow-up questions on topics where we feel like more context is needed. You may also be awarded a 30-second rebuttal at my discretion. If you're ready, we'll start with a 1-minute and 30-second opening statements. Judge Sakai, you won the coin flip and elected to go first for both opening and closing statements. So please, will you make your opening statement?
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, San Antonio Report, Angie Mogg. Thank you, Greater Chamber, Jeff Webster, and Beto Altamirano for Tech Block. My name is Peter Sakai. I'm your current county judge, running for re-election. I'm asking for your vote and support tonight. I think what's important and what I want to open with is that I've been a public servant for 40 years. Many of you know me, maybe perhaps some of you don't know me. But what I hope to share with you today is to tell you who I am and the value sets that I bring. I'm the grandson of immigrants. My grandparents came from Japan, and when they came here, they were told to go back home. They were subject to racism, discrimination. My parents and the parents' family were incarcerated in internment camps during World War II solely because they were Japanese Americans. And as a result of that experience that my father taught me, I, as a former prosecutor, I, as a former judge and now as county judge, have taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I take that seriously. I do so now in this current events. And so what I hope that you will take away tonight is my heart and my spirit of 40 years of public service. And I hope, and I'm grateful to you. Some of you are my supporters, and some of you may not be. But I hope that at the end of the night, we will have a message from me that we need to come together as a community, especially in today's world. So I hope that you'll understand. We may go back and forth. There may be a lot of words said, but I'm asking you to look at who I am.
Great.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight.
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Nirenberg, and I am running for Bexar County Judge because I believe in a brighter future for this community. In fact, I believe we have all the talent and resources in this community to be one of the strongest and most resilient places in Texas. But leadership is not just about ambition, it's about action, and that's my record as your mayor. We work together to overcome some of the most challenging period in American history, overcoming a global pandemic, moving our community forward to make investments in economic opportunity by expanding pre-K, making community college free for every local high school graduate, by creating mass transit for the first time and having a nationally modeled housing policy. And let me address the elephant in the room. Peter Sakai is a good and decent man, and I admire his work as a children's court judge. But that is not the job we are running for. The county judge, the CEO of a 2.2 million person constituency, 5,500 members in the organization, and oversees some of those critical functions of our community. And the issues that we're going to be debating today are the same ones that Peter promised to solve 3.5 years ago. So I'm running to fix things. I'm running to change things. I'm running to lead at a time when leadership is needed the most. We are facing extraordinary challenges in this community, but we have the resources and talent to move our community in significant ways with the right leadership at the top. And so I ask for your consideration to be the next Bexar County judge on March 3rd. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You took away my first question, which was, why are you running? But we'll go into that. To talk about that, let's do a minute and 30 seconds. This is a very unusual situation with two well-known Democrats facing off against each other for this role. So let's start with that obvious question. Mayor Nirenberg, why you ran now?
I'm running because we need action. We are reacting to every issue in our community right now. From a case backlog that persists because of lack of prosecutorial resources in the courts, as well in the district attorney's office, to jail overcrowding issues that continue to be exacerbated. We've got a healthcare access gap that continues to widen despite the fact we have one of the largest publicly funded taxpayer-funded hospital systems in the entire state. These issues require collaboration and leadership, and most importantly, accountability from the top. You elect the leader of the county to make sure that we solve the problems that we're dealing with today, and that we can be accountable to the public that needs those things solved.
Thank you. Judge Sakai, your goal coming into this job was restoring order to the parts of county government you thought were ignored when you were a district court judge, as well as modernizing its technology and increasing transparency around its operations. You've had 3 years to take a stab. What big changes have you made in that time?
Great question, Lee. After 20, 30 years of my predecessor government and working in the district courts, I saw that county government was relatively inefficient. So what we've done is we focused in on the basic services. First, we balanced our budget. No property tax increase, no deficits, so that we can move forward. We're prepared to deal with the federal funding ending so that we don't have to put the burden on our seniors. I look forward to the leadership of making county government more effective and efficient, changing the procurement process, changing the purchasing agent, not making county government transactional, to put people first. As a public servant, I have put children and families first, and that's my North Star. And that's the reason why I want to continue, is because we have to provide basic services in public safety to keep our cities and streets and small businesses safe. We have public health to make sure that healthcare access and affordable housing.
Great. That was just someone's phone. That wasn't your time.
I'm
You can finish your thought if you have more you'd like to
All
say.
right, I was trying to abide by the rules.
Thank you.
That's important. It's called the rule of law. Can I have it? They told me not to take this because it says Pearl, but it's not the beer. It's artesian mineral water.
It is water.
Thank you, Lee, because
fact
you know
check,
how political, this game is real tough. Judge was drinking on the job. Oh, my.
All right.
And the time's up. So y'all know what I've done, where I'm going. We're going to make Bexar County more effective, efficient, more open and transparent. Guess what? New town hall budget meetings, never done in 20, 30 years. Backlog, the jail, that's 20, 30 years of underfunding. We have made commitments to the DA's office. We have made commitments to the sheriff's office. We will continue to lead to
Please
make
finish
a
your
more
thought.
effective and efficient government. Thank you.
Great. Bexar County is the only local taxing entity with a road and flood control line item on its portion of the tax bill. After one of the most deadly flood years in almost 3 decades, what do you think the county should be doing to address flood safety? We'll go to former Mayor Nirenberg first on that one.
Well, it's critically important that people know that we have a plan for dealing with the issues that we see coming at us, including flooding. And right now, despite the fact that this is one of the fastest growing places in the entire country, we have no plan for dealing with the infrastructure needs of communities out in the unincorporated area and the suburban area. So what we need to do is develop that plan in collaboration with the 26 other municipalities in this region, as well as the unincorporated developments. It is not enough to wait for disaster to happen before we start investing in the resilient infrastructure that we need in this community.
Judge Sakai, please take that question.
Thank you, Ron, because what Bexar County did as a result of our leadership, as a result of the deaths last year at the Bidle Creek flooding, 13 deaths, should never happen. Bexar County stepped up, and what we did is we invested $21 million in partnership with the San Antonio River Authority to put the next-gen flooding warning system into effect. We didn't sit and wait to see what the city of San Antonio was going to do. We were hoping to partner. We didn't know what the state of Texas was going to do. They're giving out $1 million grants, but we weren't going to slow down when it came to saving lives and to protect our community. So my vision and leadership was take action. I listened to both sides of the argument. Judge, it's a $21 million, but it was necessary to protect lives, and that's the reason why. You remember my heart and spirit, children and families first, fighting for those working families. We cannot have that next death because we weren't prepared, and that's the reason why the next generation flood control warning system is an advanced technology, real time. It will give first responders the ability to shut the roads down, put up warning signs so that people won't die what they did last June of last year.
I'm going to follow up on that question.
Onto that?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
I mean, that illustrates the problem. Warning systems mean nothing after people have already died. Bexar County has a responsibility in a 10-year flood program. There is no plan for after the 10 years. We know this is one of the fastest growing places in the entire country. We know where we are in Flood Alley, and there is no plan beyond what the previous Commissioner's Court has already invested in. We need a regional plan that manages the infrastructure and needs of this community because of the growth that we're experiencing. And we also need to be smarter about how we deal with downstream flooding. More concrete culverts just speeds up the water that is killing people downstream. We've got to be a lot smarter with the knowledge that we have.
Yeah, Judge Sakai, 30 seconds.
30
as well.
seconds.
Yeah.
A plan without accountability is just noise. And that's the reason why I separate myself tonight to say the vision and leadership was to take action. As a district court judge, I have to make decisions. I have to be able to explain those decisions. And that's what I did. And that's what I'm doing as county judge. I am leading through a back-to-basics approach to government. We're not going to have no property tax increases. We're going to have no deficits whatsoever. We're prepared for the economic turmoil we're going to go in with the food insecurity, with the healthcare insecurity, with affordable housing. We are prepared to meet the needs of our working families tonight.
Thank you.
And for the future.
I do have a follow-up on the flooding topic again, but it's a slightly different approach. And we'll go to you first on this one, Judge Sakai. Often when the county is in the spotlight, it's in the case of flooding, a global pandemic, or other such major crisis. Why are you the person voters should trust to be in the driver's seat for whichever inevitable crisis comes next?
Because we're getting a back-to-basics approach to government. People are hungry today. People have lack of access to health care. The university health system, the premier system in our current county hospital system. We're building 2 new hospitals. We're building 2 new clinics, especially in the underserved areas. We also have affordable housing, and county has stepped in partnership with the San Antonio Independent School District to build up affordable housing, because that's the only way we save our urban core. We have to build up, we got to bring children and families back. Otherwise, those school districts, SISD, Harlandale, Edgewood, Southside, will continue to diminish, and ultimately, under the current public finance system, they're not going to survive. So the Bexar County, even though it's in the city of San Antonio, those city residents are also county residents. And I care for them, especially those that are part of the underserved class, the part that are still part of the generational poverty that we have still played with after his term as mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Nirenberg, would you take the question about why should you be the one that voters trust to be in the driver's seat?
That's the issue here, and I hope we're talking about affordable housing afterwards, because that deserves a lot of response. It's another plan without any funding. It's just a statement. We at the city have actually put a plan and funding in place in collaboration with the county, by the way. But with regard to the issue of why is the county responsible, why is the county judge on the hot seat, is because, as Nelson Wolff said, this is one of the weirdest forms of government under the sun, because you have a number of different elected officials that have their own operational control of various parts of this government. They have budgetary control in some matters, but it's the commissioner's court, along with the county judge, that have to work together and control the budget and manage through leadership. And without a county judge who is going to articulate the vision for this community and be accountable to this community for the results that we need, there is no vision. And as Proverbs said, without a vision, the people perish. Right now, we have no vision, no accountability, and that's why I'm running for county judge.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know this, the San Antonio Report has a comprehensive primary voter guide, Republican and Democratic primary voter guides, featuring profiles of all 250 candidates on the March 3rd ballot. So please use that to prepare your vote. Like many of those candidates, you each answered a questionnaire about your backgrounds and policy vision, and you both noted in the first sentence that you are the sons of immigrant parents in your bios of our 2026 voter guide. At a moment when the enforcement of U.S. immigration policies is so clearly dividing communities, what can a Bexar County judge do about any of this? Let's do a minute 30 on that, and we'll start first. We'll go with Judge Sakai on that one first. Yeah.
Judge Sakai
Yes,
first? All right.
please.
As I indicated in open, I'm the son of immigrants that saw, and history repeats itself. So I have condemned the federal authorities and the way they treat the undocumented immigrants, especially the children. And I did that based as a former judge and now county judge. I've condemned it as unconstitutional. I have put that dialogue into the record. We're going to have to face and put opposition. I've gone on record of opposing the ICE detention facility, and we're going to have to work everything we can. But what is the essence of county government, and as Ron states, the weirdness, it's not weird. It's state law. It's the Texas Constitution. All those authorities by the district attorney's office, the sheriff, the county judge, the county commissioner, all defined by statute, and you must follow the law. And we understand that in the current environment, sometimes the rule of law is not fair, but we must always respect the rule of law. And when I see an injustice, especially as the treatment of the undocumented immigrants, especially for those children that are being locked up, I am reminded the story of my father as a child during World War II who was incarcerated because he was a Japanese American. And that's why I talk passionately, and that's why I will continue to talk passionately, and that's the reason why I have the gravitas and the vision and the leadership of what we need to do. We will come together, but we have to come together as a community. We must be in unity. I must be able to talk to the other side to bring consensus so that at the very least, can we agree to disagree, or can we agree that the defense of the United States Constitution is what we have to do?
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, what can a Bexar County judge do about any of this? You both have been on social media making videos talking about this issue. It's clearly important to you both, and so Mayor Nirenberg.
Well, what we're seeing take place in communities across this country, what we are seeing throughout our community here in San Antonio is abhorrent. and we need to stand against it. And I believe we should have no part in the militarization of an arm of government that is really only accountable to one person, Donald Trump. And that arm of government is terrorizing residents of of communities across the country. And so we not only have to make statements, we also have to take action to defend the rights of us. And so it's one thing to make statements, it's another to actually take action. And so with regard to these erosions of our rights, we have to work within statute, but also find ways to push back, perhaps through the courts, as I did as mayor, attacking some of the egregious legislation that the state government put in place to try to make us use our local resources in law enforcement to do the federal government's job. So there are things that we need to do, and frankly, with the ICE facility here in San Antonio, until ICE moves in, there is an opportunity to stop it. And to this point, I've only seen City Council try to take a stand at it. Every square inch of the city of San Antonio is also part of Bexar County.
I gotta
I have a follow-up question.
But let me put on the
30
record.
seconds.
What I put on the record, I have stood with the Sheriff Javier Salazar. You don't see the sheriff assisting ICE in these unconstitutional acts of breaking down the door without a warrant, a judicial warrant. You don't see Commissioners Court. The Commissioners Court moved with my leadership with the vision and plan to protect the children by giving an immigrant defense for children and families. We are being sued. I was sued before by Attorney General Paxton on voter registration because I was protecting the right to vote. And I will protect the children who are entitled to due process at this time because that is what the United States Constitution requires, even though there are people that disagree with that. I will fight for the working families and the children and the families.
I'm glad you brought that up because follow-up to that question is that your Commissioner's Court was just sued by Ken Paxton for its use of taxpayer funds to pay for immigration-related legal services. Do you plan to continue to fund an immigration legal service fund through the county budget, even if the state fights it?
We're going to continue. We're going to fight. I beat him in court on voter registration, and I'll beat him again. And that's because I know the law. I know the Constitution. And although you don't have to be an attorney judge to be a county judge, all the prior county judges, you got to go all the way back 30 years before you see that there wasn't an attorney in that county judge. You need to understand the law. That's the reason why when the city tried to pass a paid leave ordinance under his administration, it was struck down. And guess what? I had to rule on that as a district court judge because it was quite clear it was unconstitutional. And unfortunately, the city had to spend a lot of money defending what was clearly an unconstitutional ordinance mandated paid leave, especially affecting small businesses. And I'm going to tell you, I support paid leave. I think it should be required, but it was unconstitutional. And Manny Pelaez, then city councilman, told the city council, don't do that, and they did. And that's your taxpayer money. And so that's the reason why I want to continue as county judge to enforce the laws and the Constitution.
Yeah, we'll do a minute on that. I was also going to ask you if voters should expect you to take an approach in terms of pushing back on the state if you're serving as a leader of a legal subdivision of the state government.
I'll be sitting at council table like I did at the voter registration. I sat there and helped the lawyers.
That's fair. Former Mayor Nirenberg, would you take that one for 1 minute?
Absolutely, because being a subdivision of the state doesn't cede all of your rights to the state of Texas. We also have obligations to uphold the Constitution. And so absolutely, there is continued to be a voice in this community. But let me just clear this up because there's a little bit of obfuscation here. County judge mentioned that Ken Paxton, they sued Ken Paxton on the voter registration, beat him.
No,
you didn't try that. You
Paxton
didn't try
sued
that case,
the
Judge.
county.
Okay. Well, on the legal services, this is something I was proud that my city council colleagues also supported 8 years ago. And we didn't actually get sued. We're doing the same things. And so there are ways that we can work with our community, avoid the legal challenges that you've gotten into, and continue to defend the rights of the members of this community.
All right, you both have played central roles in San Antonio's effort to move the Spurs NBA arena downtown, known as Project Marvel. You've also both weathered some criticism for not moving fast enough to make it happen. We've heard some comments from each of you in recent weeks that seem to move the goalpost a little on how this all came together. So we want to dig in on each of your roles. I'd like you to take a minute, both of you, to tell voters exactly what role you played on Project Marvel, whether years ago or leading up to the election, and why you believe those efforts were in the community's best interest. But first, Judge Sakai, you campaigned hard to bring voters on board with the funding, but last week you said you don't support the city's overall development plan downtown since it doesn't do anything for the east side of San Antonio where the Spurs are located. How has your position changed so much in just a few months?
I need to clear it up, and I want to make it real clear tonight. I supported Proposition A, was the revitalization of the east side with the county facilities. I supported Proposition B, was what's for a new Spurs Arena, which was only venue allowed by state law. Project Marvel was the city of San Antonio that was done in secret without the involvement of the county. I was given a 30-minute briefing last year, and that was the extent of it. I still don't know what Project Marvel. So I artfully said I opposed Project Marvel, but I went on record with Bob Rivard on the Big City, Small Town. I went on KSAT to say, in order to defend and promote Referendum B, which was the Spurs Arena, which would have been a revitalization, that's why I support. But let me tell you what the issue of Project Marvel is. The land bridge, the hotel, the moving of the chillers, a $4 to $5 billion. I caught holy heck from the community in regards to Project Marvel. So I separate, and I made it very clear, not only to the city, but to the Spurs. I was going to defend Proposition B for the revitalization, and I asked the city, and I asked the Spurs, can this referendums A and B be the revitalization of the east side, fulfill that promise that they made 20 years ago? Can it be a revitalization of the downtown? And with my leadership and vision, we passed A and B. I was one of the few elected officials that was out there, and I will continue to support the Spurs because we cannot lose them. And that's the reason why I was clearly, and I state clearly today, I support referendums A and B as it was stated in the venue election.
Okay. That was a minute and 30 seconds. We had a little snafu with the clock, but it'll be a minute and 30 seconds also for former Mayor Nirenberg. But it's hard to know how you contributed since much of it occurred when this project was happening behind closed doors. Can you tell us what exactly your role was in the early days and why you believe you acted in the community's best interests on this city-shaping project?
Sure. Well, first of all, that was anything but clear. And I don't know what it is with the all of a sudden 180, but let me remind folks, Peter Sakai put it on the ballot. He cut videos to support it. And then he was on stage saluting victory for it. So I'm not sure what about the 180, but let me remind folks, the arena doesn't happen without the investments that are part of Project Marvel. He knows that. They're part of the funding mechanism. If those developments don't occur that are part of Project Marvel, there is no arena. So that's a whole lot of disingenuous statements that my opponent just made. But let me be very clear about my role in this. There are so many things happening in downtown right now. We have one of the most unique downtowns in America. You've got the Alamo redevelopment, the Hemisphere project. You've got major investments happening in the Riverwalk. There's a lot of improvements with UTSA coming downtown. We need to think bigger than just a collection of projects and do something to uplift this community. And so in 2023, we met with Peter Sakai as the county leader, because if we're going to do anything related to downtown that's going to be complex like this, we need the city and the county involved. So to say that he was not involved, he's been in every single one of those meetings with the Spurs. And he knew about it, and he agreed with it, but he wanted his own plan for the east side fully baked, which is now still underway under his own non-disclosure agreements. And so the challenge was, we can't move forward together unless we move forward together. And so all of this that we're talking about now is convenient, recent memory, and it is concerning because what could be a transformational, uplifting moment for our entire community has turned divisive because of his convenient memory.
Judge Sakai, 1 minute to respond.
And what I said on the east side that created that mischaracterization and misstatement was, what was Project Marvel going to do for the revitalization of the east side? And after his 12 years as council and mayor, I've said, what has changed out here? And Project Marvel. So let me focus in as to my leadership and where we need to go in regards to project. First, the city needs to really clearly define it. and I don't know under the current mayor and council what Project Marvel still is. Do you? And as a result, I want the back to basics approach to government. I want parking, I want that traffic flow all to be fixed. Otherwise, Project Marvel and its grandiose schemes, whether it's a land bridge, whether it's a hotel, moving the chillers, revitalizing whatever, unless we focus on infrastructure, we got a nightmare coming in when that whole, now, the beauty of this is the Spurs are not leaving till I'm convinced, and we've had those talks to 2032. So for all those like, where are those contracts coming out, Judge? We ain't shovel ready. So I want to focus in on basic county government, which is the focus is on infrastructure.
Former Mayor Nirenberg, I think the other city leaders who ran in 2025 heard loud and clear from voters that they didn't like the closed door negotiations in the early part of Project Marvel. What lessons did you take away from how that project came together? And how would you assure Bexar County voters that major spending decisions will be treated with transparency and respect for public input? 1 minute on that one.
For all of the pursuit of making sure that we work together as one community so we don't end up back in 1997 with the city and the county on separate pages and promises made to the east side that never get fulfilled. The goal of bringing us all together falls flat when you have one entity not willing to work with the other. And so that's the lesson. The challenge here is, Peter mentions the importance of the east side. Right now, all we have is the $200 million that is going into the Freeman Coliseum grounds. The promises that are being made about the east side revitalization will not come true unless the east side residents are part of that process. And right now they are not. In fact, you have the two representatives that represent the east side communities who are barred from those talks. Councilman McKee Rodriguez, as well as Commissioner Tommy Calvert, need to be part of those discussions if we want to make sure that the goals of the east side community are met. And if we don't get this right, we will never get another opportunity for another generation to do something big again. So under my watch, I will make sure that the communities are included and we no longer have these kinds of discussions waiting for one entity to pull up from the other.
Have a rebuttal.
30 seconds.
Again, a misstatement. I have in my hand a memo to file. We had Commissioner Calvert at our April 2025 meeting. Councilman McKee Rodriguez and his staff were there for the May, July, August meeting. We had a public information meeting with the public, with this advisory council on October 1. Both Councilman McKee Rodriguez's staff and Councilman Calvert's staff attended the meeting. We have always briefed, and Councilman McKee Rodriguez, City Manager Eric Walsh were briefed on what the East Side Advisory Council did. On June 27th of 2025, Commissioner Calvert was also briefed. A misstatement for the record.
Let's talk about the east side. Specifically, this is a follow-up for Judge Sakai, so 1 minute. You had a vision for the Frost Bank Arena. In fact, you kind of held up this to get onto the ballot before moving the Spurs. Voters liked what you came up with, supporting Proposition A at higher levels than they supported Proposition B, but since then delivering it has looked somewhat challenging. Only one bid was submitted when the Coliseum Advisory Board sought a master developer, casting doubt in some people's minds about whether, again, this vision for the east side will come to fruition. Can you tell us where that project currently stands and when the community can expect for ground to be broken?
Well, the East Side Advisory Council continues, and we're going to engage now in a robust community engagement. One of the things that people didn't understand, I had to push back in the referendum, was the venue tax could only go to a venue that was related to tourists. So I heard the community saying, hey, what about housing? What about sidewalks? What about streets? What about drainage? That money could not be used. So I strategically, as the county judge said, let's keep this issue about referendum A, which was the county facility, so that the Frost Bank Center did not become the next Astrodome. If the Spurs leave and the rodeo does not fulfill, which they now have put a business plan together, they are going to run a year-round rodeo industry. We're going to revitalize that area so that it can be pearl-like. Get the cement and asphalt out there, green it up, put businesses, small businesses, put restaurants in there. Guess what? That public-private partnership that I tout in all aspects of county government, we have a private developer looking to redevelop Salado Creek, the Willow Springs Golf Course. But we need community involvement. We are then now going to engage in a robust discussion of community benefit. And you will see that as the year comes, and at this time, it's now going into the contract phase. And so we will engage. We will be open and transparent. I've done that with
Appreciate
county
that.
government, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Nirenberg, something I'd like to clarify for the audience really quick, the Proposition A and the East Side, this is something the county is really going to own. Proposition B and Project Marvel, obviously the county is a contributor to that. It's an important part of a downtown project. But Proposition A and what happens on the East Side is truly the purview of the county judge in a different way. And obviously Project Marvel has come up on the campaign trail and is part of both of your records. But I do want to talk about what's happening on the East Side. So Mayor Nirenberg, you would inherit the responsibility of delivering on a major redevelopment of the East Side that you didn't really help dream up. How would you plan to pull that off?
And that's what I'm talking about, is that the community needs to be involved in the process of envisioning the East Side redevelopment outside of the Freeman grounds. And it's incorrect to say that the city is not involved in that process, because even in Peter's remarks, he's counting on the Willow Springs to bring the public value to that process. We need to make sure that we're engaging the entire community to make sure that they're envisioning and they have some self-determination in the efforts that are happening outside of the Freeman Coliseum grounds to do what was not done back in the early 2000s, which is make sure that there's economic activity that activates small businesses in the East Side, make sure there's residential opportunity and recreational opportunity. And I do appreciate some of the comments that have come out outside of those meetings with regard to a community benefits agreement, bringing in educational opportunities to the East Side. So those are the areas that are going to truly revitalize the East Side. That's the part that has not been done, it has been not considered.
Well, I would like to have you each take 30 seconds and tell me when you think we can break ground on any of this on the East Side.
No, my first question to my opponent is, where's the details?
That's your project.
Oh, that's yours. What are the details of your plans? You said a lot, but where's the details? I have a detail to reform the Frost Bank Center so that it can compete, obviously, with a new Spurs Arena. I want to renovate the Coliseum so that it can be a enterprise along with the San Antonio Rodeo. They make $300 million a year gross, $12 million scholarships. The community benefit is what the San Antonio Rodeo does for the East Side, part of it.
Thank you.
And so what we need to do is we had details, and as far as your specific question, it will probably be the next 2 to 3 years before all these contracts, because we have to figure out what the city of San Antonio is going to do with the Spurs Arena and the $1.5 billion investment. Again, a public-private partnership that will allow the growth, the revitalization of downtown. And that's the reason why I separate myself from a Project Marvel, a City of San Diego project, unless we get the details. And that's what's still lacking at this time.
Former Mayor Nirenberg, I'd like to give you a minute 30 on that, because I think that's how much time we just took. So will you tell us how long you think it will take to break ground on the East Side if you inherited that project? And let's hear some details.
Sure. Well, again, the reason why there's no details is because there's no plan. And the plan involves the community. The community needs to be at the table to develop the plans for what happens to the revitalization outside. And you've got plenty of efforts right now underway with Commissioner Calvert to bring the community together to develop those plans. It's not just about the Freeman Coliseum. If it was, we would be story over in 1997. But the benefits to the community, the revitalization that's been promised to the East Side, has to include the community members from the East Side, and that is the process that has not taken place to correspond to what Peter's talking about.
So why did Representative Barbara Govan-Hawkins in a forum in the East Side ask you, after they met with you when you first started mayor, that there was no follow-up? And you challenged her on that statement, and I'm still asking, where is your plan for the East Side? Because that's the reason why the East Side has such anger, distrust. And that's the reason why I put them first, so that we could make sure that the East Side was taken care of, so that all Bexar County, as a result, are going to grow. Economic growth equals economic prosperity.
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, 30 seconds to rebut that if you'd like.
I'm not sure what to respond to from that.
Okay.
Was there a question for me?
It was about East Side involvement, not having East Side involvement, but.
Well, he's talking about something from 8 years ago. I'll tell you what we did 8 years ago. In collaboration with all 10 colleagues on the city council, we finally instituted equity in the city so that The communities that needed infrastructure dollars were getting their fair share of resources. One of the challenges is making promises that we're going to end the disparities in infrastructure and economic development in communities overnight. This has occurred over generations. And so bringing up the East Side to parity with other areas of this community is going to require continuous investment. We have done that now for 9 years in a row at the city, and we will continue to do that under my leadership at the county.
Thank you.
The way that we're going to do that is with education and workforce
I have more
development.
questions. Okay. So you both have said, we're moving on to the next question. You both have said you support creating a separate diversion center for the Bexar County Jail aimed at steering people with mental illness or developmental disabilities away from the criminal justice system and into treatment. The city has moved for a feasibility study, but we're talking millions of dollars and untold months or years before this becomes reality. On any given day in the Bexar County Jail, more than 100 inmates are waiting for a hospital bed. The average wait time for non-maximum security inmates for a bed is 277 days, which is about a month longer than the state average and far more than the maximum sentence for a Class B misdemeanor, which is 180 days in jail. With a new joint city-county diversion center still a long ways away, what is your plan to reduce those wait times in the meantime? Judge Sakai.
What we need to do and what we started with our jail public safety plan, for which at a prior forum he took credit for. Well, here it is. This was prepared by my staffer, Cynthia Cos, that was all signed off, nearly 30 recommendations. We'll focus in to keep our community safe, but yet deal with those issues. In regards to the jail, I am committed to diversion and deflection. Let me explain. Diversion means after they're arrested, you try to get people that have mental health, drug or alcohol addiction, or whatever, medical issues, and divert them away from the jail. Deflection is to keep people from entering because they don't belong there. Low-level offenders, people that may be unhoused, people are there because there's just no place to go. The Bexar County Jail is the largest mental health facility. And you know what? He says it's all your fault, but it's as a result of 20, 30 years of underfunding the district attorney's office, underfunding the sheriff's office, underfunding the courts. And for 3 years, and that's all I've had, I have reinstated the funding for the sheriff. I have built up the court system. I have committed to restorative justice, which focus in and to keep people. And finally, no new jail. If you build it, we will fill it. We have an issue of disproportionality, which means it will be filled with people of color. And that's still an issue that plagues our criminal justice system. Why? Because I know it. I was in the court system. So I am committed to get people out of that jail that don't belong there.
Thank you.
And I have a plan.
Thank you. Former Mayor, will you talk about your plan to reduce wait times?
Sure. Well, this is the issue. This is the same issues we've been talking about for the last 3 years. These are not new ideas. The Bexar County Adult Detention Facility has become a de facto mental health institution and homeless shelter, and that's wrong. We need a diversion center, and we have resources to be able to do that. The University Health Hospital is an incredible organization that is doing a lot of capital investment. Some of that capital investment needs to be in the diversion facility that we can work in partnership with the Center for Healthcare Services to run. In addition to that, we need to address the case backlog issues within the district attorney's office and the court system. We have too many people going into the jail because there's nowhere else for them to go. And then we are spending millions of dollars shipping additional inmates to other counties. All that needs to end. These are not new ideas. We need to take action, and we do that by bringing folks together to solve that problem.
Thank you.
And what I've done...
We're going to move forward. We had a moment where we asked the audience to give us a topic that they were most interested in. I believe we have the results of that survey ready to go. Growth was chosen by the most people in the audience tonight that they'd like to hear about. So let's ask that question now. The background of every conversation we're having today is massive local growth. The Texas economy is growing at a faster rate than the nation as a whole, and that's particularly true for rural Bexar County, where rooftops are now going up much faster than in the landlocked inner city. That's given the county more tax dollars to work with, but it also means an increasing need for all of the services that the county provides. What are some concrete ways you expect this growth to show up in our communities over the next decades? And how can Bexar County take advantage of the opportunities this growth provides? Judge Sakai, will you take that one first?
With my vision and leadership, we have committed to economic growth. Economic growth equals to economic prosperity. What's happening? I've got 2 Japanese industries coming. America Cantera has set up its corporate headquarters during my 3 years, and tomorrow, Sanko Plastics will break ground with Optech with Max Navarro. 2 Japanese industries that were looking at Austin. I partnered, I don't take all the credit. We partner with Greater SATX, we partner with the City of San Antonio Economic Development, and we got the job done, and we're bringing high-paying jobs. That's how we beat. We have a workforce program, the American Texas Fast Track, Texas Fame, which has a 90% retention, 90% graduation, and it is the most cost-effective workforce driven because it is employer-driven. Why? Because we've listened to the employers, and we're meeting the needs of advanced manufacturing jobs, and that is what's created the growth. Why I want growth is because you know that Southwest ISD, Southside ISD, and the East Central, that whole rural school district, we're failing and we're underfunded, but they're booming because of economic growth. That's what I want to bring to urban core. That's what I want to do for SISD, Harlandale, Edgewood, South Sand, the urban core, without growing population, without bringing, that's the reason why I committed as a result of the baseball stadium that I was able to carry and bring to fruition. We will have a new baseball stadium in part for the revitalization of downtown along with the new Spurs Arena. We committed 1,250 housing units. And so that is what my leadership has done, and that's my vision, is to bring up and to work with our working families in our community.
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, can you speak to population growth and how you expect it to show up in our communities over the next decades, and how we can take advantage of the opportunities this growth provides?
Sure. Well, I would love another 10 minutes to respond to some of the things that were just said. But let me answer your question. The challenges of growth are showing up in the infrastructure issues. They are showing up in challenges related to quality services. They are showing up in frankly, a lack of a plan. The reality is, in 2026, we are still building colonias in Bexar County that are not attached to basic infrastructure, running water, and sanitation services. That's wrong. And so we have to work together to create a comprehensive plan, similar to how we did at the city, to get ready for that growth and use the tools that we have available to make sure it's quality. How do we do that? There's a lot of different tools that we have available to us. Some of them are outside of the reach of the municipal authority. And so in those cases, we can work with the developers as they plan these properties to make sure that they have the increment investment to actually build the infrastructure. In other areas, you have densified communities that are growing in the unincorporated areas. We can work with them to incorporate so they have their own authority to make sure that they're delivering quality services. But it is unacceptable that anyone in 2026, with all the vast resources that we have in this community, is still living in substandard conditions. So we'll work together as a community to solve those things. The other issue is we've got to make sure that we continue to grow economically by driving good jobs here to San Antonio and matching our workforce to it. We have expanded pre-K for SA. We have also made sure that we have a free community college program for every local high school graduate in this county. And we are working to invest in quality workforce development. And that is some of the most challenging investments we will make, but they are also returning quicker than any other public investment we've ever made as a community, and that's why it was publicly supported.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on that for you both. One of the most intense political fights in this region right now involves the development in a hill country community that relies on wastewater treatment that residents are very against. This is not the last time that's going to happen. So what is the roadmap to avoiding these types of standoffs in the future, since we expect it to happen again? And Judge Sakai, you'd like to take that one first. 1 minute.
That's Wild Lord Ranch. And I want to bring out today where he was on February 1 of 2022, sitting on the San Antonio Water Board that approved the wastewater permit.
No, we did not.
And
that
he's on
false.
record. He's
that
on record to have proved it. I got the minutes, and we can provide it to you if necessary. And so now there's opposition. One of the fundamental, and that's about leadership, is the strategic decisions you make and be held accountable. He made a decision to move away from the aquifer protection money to ready to work. I've already challenged the return of investment of ready to work. 3,200 jobs with 200 plus million bucks. Our Texas Fast Track is a minuscule amount, although it is a smaller amount of graduate. It is meeting the needs because it is an employer-driven program. So those are the strategic decisions that leadership must make. And I will always stand that we must first, you ran as an environmentalist, you did a lot of great things, but you made a decision to move that
Finish your
aquifer
thought.
protection money to the ready to work, and we're now suffering the consequence. And now you're saying you oppose it when you supported San
finish
Antonio
your
water
thought.
system in approving the wastewater permit that now
time.
is ongoing and in the court system. And I said,
Well, Lee, I'm going to need a little extra time.
Yeah, former
That
Mayor
time of
Nirenberg,
possession is a little bit lopsided
You
right
get
now.
a 30-second rebuttal as well as 1 minute to speak about growth and water and how to deal with these projects.
Well, I'd like to respond to the workforce issue, but I also need to correct two blatant misstatements that were made up here. The first one is, under the state law of Texas and Public Utility Commission code, if you are in the CCN of water service delivery, you have to approve the delivery of service. You cannot discriminate. And so the San Antonio water system approved delivering water to the Guajolote Ranch to develop it. And in the process, we also did not approve wastewater treatment. And so they go now to the state to try to get wastewater service, which is the battle that's going on now. And we have always said we reserve the right to contest that permit. It is wrong without a plan. We're going to continue to see this threaten our aquifer. And if there's one thing that I've been consistent about over the last 12 years, among many other things that we've talked about that are desperately needed, is the protection of the Edwards Aquifer. We also need transit in this community. We need better education in this community. So what my colleagues on the city council did is we did all of those things. By shifting sales tax to ready to work for 4.5 years and then to transit, we now have transit coming to this community. And before we did that, we made sure that there was an ongoing commitment to the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program at the same level it was being done with the sales tax for 20 years. And we did that. It has continued to be funded. We continue to buy conservation easements. And that's what it takes to be creative and innovative in a challenging environment. We need to be able to plan for this growth and deal with it. Now, if I can respond to the workforce development piece.
Yeah, 30 more seconds.
Sure. Well, ready to work is the option of last resort for thousands of people in this community who are struggling in poverty. And if we have the audacity to talk about poverty in this community, we should be willing to do something about it. And today we have 15,000 plus people training for new jobs. We have over 3,500 that are already placed in new jobs, and each one of those are, the average participant is a single mother raising children in a household that comes from $11,000 per year. And as they get placed in a new job, they're making $45,000, $44,000+ a year with benefits. We are breaking cycles of poverty one at a time, and believe me, it's already taken, the amount of return on investment to the community is already more than what it came in. And so this is how we break cycles of poverty. We don't just talk about it, we do something about it.
but I want to go back to
30
Guajolote
seconds.
Ranch. The city of San Antonio, settled with the developer Lennar and allowed the wastewater permit to go in the lawsuit settlement. And you have gone on record that you weren't aware of that settlement. There's an accountability and leadership. And that's the reason why I challenge you on this issue of Guajolote Ranch. You moved the aquifer protection money. You were environmentalists, but you moved away from that. Lennar was in that master development plan. The city of San Antonio never had the intention to protect that area. They wanted to annex it so they could bring in more property tax increase, because that's how they can balance their budget and get out of the $150 million deficit that they're in now.
Yeah, all right. We need to move forward just for the basis of time. So let's talk about money and how limited it can be
Onto that.
sometimes. Let's move forward, and you can wrap it into your comments on the next question. The county encompasses all 10 of San Antonio City Council districts, as well as numerous autonomous municipalities, unincorporated areas. That's a lot of ground to cover with both law enforcement and human services. How should the county allocate its resources when it comes to working to mitigate the issue of homelessness across our community, as well as to police crime, and make sure local communities have access to health care, which is a key county function, especially when we're facing a fiscal cliff in the county budget? Judge Sakai, we'll have you take that one first, and then we'll get back to you.
That's the reason why a back-to-basics government approach is necessary. We're going to go through tough times. Food insecurity, healthcare insecurity, affordable housing insecurity. What this county has done as a result of my leadership in 3 years, not the 12 years as his as mayor, we invested in the Via Silver Line, $102 million of county transportation money that we helped via leverage into $300 million for the federal government, which will connect West Side and East Side from Our Lady of the Lake to Frost Bank Center, which is part of the revitalization. We also committed $15 million in housing investment to create 2,420 housing units across Bexar County. In regards to homelessness, we created the Bexar County Outreach Pilot Program with 4 suburban cities, and I think that's the key issue in regards an example of communication, collaboration, and coordination. We need to talk to each other. We need to listen. Suburban cities, we're seeing that the city of San Antonio was pushing the homeless issue. We have a highly successful outreach program partnered with Haven and Hope. Again, a public-private partnership. Government alone cannot solve this homelessness, this unhoused issue, but we can partner up. And with the leadership that I provide, it's increasing capacity for housing. It's addressing specific needs of the homeless, because we know it's about drug and alcohol addiction. We put $14 million we put nearly $75 million that really has gone to the nonprofit community to deal with drug and alcohol addiction, to deal with mental health, the trauma that the homeless and unhoused suffer, and we need to also increase the affordable housing, and we committed $14 million to the Commons Executive, which will increase through Sam's Shelter. That is what is happening now through Bexar County government. It's never happened before. In my 3 years, that's what I've been accomplished, and that's where we're going as your county judge.
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, can you speak to how to allocate county resources in the budget, as well as respond to anything you'd like to respond to? Sorry, we're running out of time. That's the best we can do, guys.
Well, okay, let's talk about housing and homelessness. First of all, we got to stop duplicating services. We have developed with this community over 1,000 people coming together our first ever affordable housing strategy as a city. It is now region-wide, and it is being modeled by the nation. And as a result, we have passed our first ever housing affordability bond, and we are filling in the gaps in the homeless service ecosystem to make sure that we address the challenge of having unsheltered homelessness. And as a result, over the last 5 years, we've reduced unsheltered homelessness by 25%. Homelessness is a cause of a lot of different things, and you heard them: substance abuse, domestic violence, mental health, economic hardship. We've got a lot of different systems. We've got to make sure that we're working in collaboration to address the issues upstream so that people don't become homeless in the first place. So there's a lot of different systems involved, but to just throw out a bunch of programs and not have cohesion on a plan to address it is why we have new silos being created instead of people and systems working together. We've shown how we can do this as a community. In the city, we've reduced unsheltered homelessness. That's why how we have to do it comprehensively, but bringing people together on a plan.
So why have the increase in population of the unhoused has happened during your term? And that the county has now leaned in and to address homeless issue, especially with the suburban cities, because the city, that's not a strategy. That is not leadership. And that's the reason why I will continue to focus in on basic services. We've got to get housing. We have to also focus in on mental health. We put in nearly $20 million to partner with the public school district to create substantive mental health through our nonprofit partners. Again, public-private partnership. We are committed to have mental health as a public health issue so that we help train the sheriffs
You're running
and the
against
court.
your own record.
Yeah, 30 seconds, former mayor.
I pass. I mean, look, you can talk about all the things that you think that the county should be doing, and then there's one thing to talk about it and actually do it.
So what have you done? What have you done?
We've created a strategic housing implementation plan that has now created the only permanent support.
How many housing units?
Can I answer the question
How
that
many
you asked?
housing units?
We have created permanent supportive housing that never existed in this community before.
Where are
We've
they?
created
Just allow him to answer the question.
low barrier shelter that never existed in this community before. You talk about the 2,500 some odd housing units you're going to build with SAISD. There is no funding attached to that, Judge.
It's a
you have a
public-private
strategic
partnership
housing
getting the
implementation
developers
plan
to
that was
come
started
with the
in
San
the
Antonio
city
Independent
that has
School
now been
District.
recognized
Please,
by the county, and
let
you're
him-
creating your own new plan. That's how we started this mess. We're working to get people to work together, and you're going off to do your own thing so you can govern to the optics of whatever
It
headline
didn't
you
start
heard the
in
other.
your 12 years of city council leadership?
I didn't hear
let's-
the question. Could you
Let's,
say that again?
let's move forward in the debate. Former Mayor Nirenberg, I'd like, for 1 minute, you would be the rare county judge coming into this role without a law degree or experience in the legislature. In what ways will you need to get up to speed quickly on day one?
The county judge is the CEO of this community. It is not a judicial position. You don't try cases, you don't hear cases. It's called a county judge here. Other communities call it a county mayor. Other communities call it a county executive. It's called a county judge here because we're still in a 19th century constitution. And so what you need is a leader who's accountable to the actions that the community needs to be done to solve these complex problems by bringing people together. We all swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. That's not breaking news. We all have to know the laws to make sure that we're operating under the proper statutes. But to say that it is not about actually achieving the outcomes and being accountable and hide behind statute, that's not my view of leadership. We need action, not words.
Judge Sakai, for you, the Bexar County, I have a question for you on the judicial piece. The Bexar County DA is its own elected office, but your purview is to support that office. In a debate we hosted last week between all 8 Democrats running for DA, they talked about limited resources, staffing, and training as some of their main challenges. You've had responsibility over the success of that office, yet they say there's a lot of problems still there. What do you think still needs to change?
In the predecessor government, which I was sitting there as district court judge, I am telling you that the district attorney's office, the law enforcement, the sheriff, the constables, and the court system were underfunded. I had to argue, and in 1 year, I had to do a mandatory 10% decrease, just flat out, because of the 2008 budget cycle. That's the reason why I'm very sensitive to fiscal responsibility, fiscal management. We need not to put the property tax in. That's a line in the sand that we cannot put it on the seniors and disabled. And so the district attorney is an elected office. The sheriff is an elected office. The criminal justice system is complex. Let me give you this analogy. The 4 legs of the stool, district attorney's office, court, and the court system and the commissioner's court is the funding mechanism by law and statute. What is truly needed to make a stool strong are the pegs that connect the stool, not the individual legs. And that's the reason why as county judge, I understand. That's how I brought innovative cutting programs to the court system, and I will continue to bring diversion, deflection, move out those mental health people in our system, and to create a regional jail. That is my newest concept that I'm partnering up with Representative Barbara Gervin-Hawkins to partner up so that we can get the state of Texas.
That's your time.
Well, that's more breaking news. Now he wants a new jail. I thought you weren't for that.
No, it's a regional jail, not a jail where, and if, what you need to understand is where you're going to put it,
80% of the people in there haven't had their cases heard. We need to solve that problem first.
and you can't fix it.
All right, I'd like to reset.
Clearly, you have every excuse not to now.
I'd like to reset for a moment. Thank you. I know that campaigns are fiery and challenging. You both are public servants that have served this community for a very long time. To close out our time, we got a question submission from a voter that I thought would be a good place to end tonight. Jose asked, many of us know you to be good people who are good Democrats. Help us understand how you are different than your opponent and how you would better serve the people of Bexar County. This is our final question before closing statements, so please 1 minute and 30 each. Whoever would like to take that one first. Former Mayor Nirenberg.
Well, I think you heard it in the last statement. All it is excuses. And the more that we hide behind statute and not be willing to be creative to solve problems and bring people together collaboratively, the more we will continue to have status quo. There are a lot of challenges in this community that we faced in the city, but working together with my colleagues, we are now moving forward on mass transit. And by the way, this doublespeak on the transit situation is really rich, because it's that same tax that now is being funded a different way for the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program that enabled them to get the capital for this mass transit line. And so we need people who are willing to be accountable to solving the problems. The county judge is the CEO of this county. I can't say that enough. And it's not enough to be a Democrat to win a vote. You've got to be effective. And we've got to start solving problems. I will not allow our county government to continue to react to every issue and let it become a crisis before we take action. As I did as mayor, we will be proactive. We will get the work done, and we will move this community forward collaboratively, working together.
Judge Sakai, will you take that question? Help us understand how you're different from your opponent and how you would better serve the people of Bexar County.
My 40 years of public service has been, and I asked you to look at my heart and spirit, it's been focused in on children and families. I disagree with my opponent that Commissioner's Court is not a family court. It is, because every decision has to be focused on the best interests of children and families. You may think, well, what does that mean? Otherwise, without that North Star, then it's all transactional. And it's who you know, what you know, and how you can negotiate. And that's the 20, 30 years of county government. I went there now been there 3 years to make the change. I bring people together. I told you how my strategy is. Communicate, collaborate, coordinate. It served me well as a district court judge, and it has served me well as a county judge. I've told you tonight that I am a back to basics. I really feel that county government must meet the needs. We got to feed the hungry. We've got to make sure that they're healthy, and we got to focus on wellness. We got to focus on their mental health and drug and alcohol treatment. We got to break the cycle of domestic violence, and I've been able to do that, and I will continue to do that. And that is my North Star. That's what separates me. And that's the reason why you've heard a robust discussion tonight of the accountability that is so necessary in leadership. Without accountability, you have nothing. You have plans and you have expectations. And that's the reason why you've heard a bit of a robust discussion. Where is the beef?
All right. I cannot, on behalf of the San Antonio Report, the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, and Tech Block, thank you both enough for participating in this conversation. We have time for closing statements, 1 minute each. Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai, please take the closing statement first.
As I opened, I hope that this robust discussion has motivated you to look harder, but I am asking y'all to look at the track record of me, my 40 years of public service, and where I've been. I explained it just in the last response. I am not a career politician. I hold myself to the highest standards of judicial ethics. I've never been sanctioned, disciplined in any way in my nearly 30 years as a judge, and I will not be as county judge. The issue is about good, effective, efficient government, open and transparent government, better customer service. My Japanese culture teaches me continuous improvement, the Japanese word kaizen. And that's what I bring to the table. Make county government better. I have focused in on budget town hall meetings that were never done. I got the Elections Commission to meet after 20 years. We have had a lot of stagnant county government. And I am working, and I need another term in order to accomplish the vision and leadership that you want. Good government.
Thank you. Former Mayor Nirenberg, 1 minute closing statement, please.
Well, I appreciate you all being here today, and for those of you who are watching on TV, engaging in this process. And obviously, you've heard a lot of differences of opinion here, but I will leave you with this. I believe that we have, within our capacity, the ability to achieve our highest aspirations. We have the resources and talent in this community to no longer accept mediocrity from our leaders. And while we appreciate each other personally and our stories, this is a job that requires vision, focus, leadership, and collaboration. That's what you got from me as mayor, and that's why I'm running for this job. And I will ask you again, this is about accountability. And so the things that we've discussed today, the solutions for the challenges that we have to face, I would ask you to go to my website at voteron.com. You can read what I plan to do and what you will hold me accountable to doing as your next county judge. I appreciate the questions, and I look forward to earning your support on March 3rd to be your next Bexar County judge.
Thank you for being here for tonight's debate. Please join me in thanking our candidates for participating tonight and explaining their visions. Now, to close us out, I'd like to invite Jeff Webster of the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. We love the clapping. We'd like to have Jeff Webster from the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce close our remarks.
So I get to close this out. I don't know really how you follow this,
because we are blessed here in San Antonio to have two public servants that truly care about our community. And we can have discussions about visions and style and all these other things, but can I have a round of applause for these two gentlemen who've put themselves out there to take this on? Again, I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, USAA. I also left off one at the beginning. We are friends at AT&T. This is being broadcast live in several channels, so I hope we're driving it all through AT&T and it's worth your while, AT&T. Thank you for being a part of this. We have a VIP reception out back if you've got one of the bracelets. We thank you for being a part of this. I've been a part of the political conversation here in San Antonio for over 30 years. It is hard to get 50 people in the room, let alone over 500 here tonight, to participate in public service in this conversation. So with that, we say good night, God bless, and thank you for being here, and get out to vote.